I believe every person has a right to basic knowledge of how to optimize their mind, body, and spirit. Here, I bring to you influential individuals and ideas to help you live a more healthy, fulfilling life. I'm Julie Fouché, and I'd like to welcome you to Pursuing Health. Hello, and welcome back to Pursuing Health. This is episode number 24, and here I visit the Airrosti Rehab Center's headquarters in San Antonio, Texas, where I speak with two of the very first Airrosti doctors, Dr. Jason Garrett and Dr. Ty Nickleberry. I've gotten to know Airrosti over the past couple of years as they've provided services for athletes at the CrossFit Regional and Games competitions, and I've also been fortunate to partner with them as a sponsored athlete for the past year. What I like most about Airrosti is that they're using evidence-based therapy for soft tissue injury, standardizing its delivery, and making it widely available and easily accessible to patients and providers. In our current healthcare system, we don't often have great solutions for aches and pains other than medications or surgeries. And rather than simply masking pain, Airrosti helps to actually identify its root cause and then provide effective treatment. I also love that they've tracked their outcomes from over 1 million patient visits, and they show timely resolution of pain and injuries, as well as significant savings of unnecessary surgeries, procedures, as well as cost savings. A little bit of background about Airrosti. It was first founded in 2004, and Ty Nickleberry was the very first provider who we'll talk to today. Following that time, Airrosti quickly expanded across the state of Texas and then began to partner with local primary care physicians. In 2014, Airrosti's partnership with CrossFit began as they were named the head of athlete services for the CrossFit Games, and by this past fall of 2015, they now have well over 150 practices spanning across Texas as well as Virginia, Ohio, Illinois, and Washington, and they've reached a milestone of 1 million patient visits. Airrosti has even been voted one of the best places to work in San Antonio multiple years in a row, as well as one of the fastest growing companies in the United States by Inc. magazine. A little bit of background about the doctors who I'll be talking to today. Doctors Garrett and Nickleberry both graduated from Texas Chiropractic College, and they came on as two of the first Airrosti doctors, where they helped to develop multiple practices as well as some of the training programs for new providers. Dr. Garrett now serves as the Managing Vice President for Clinical Development at Airrosti, where he trains new providers, and he also educates physicians from family practitioners to orthopedic surgeons about Airrosti's role. Dr. Nickleberry currently serves as the Vice President of Clinical Operations as well as the Director of Provider Recruitment at Airrosti. In this episode, we sat down to discuss what brought them to Airrosti, how the company has grown and evolved over the years, the role Airrosti plays in the greater healthcare system, its evidence-based methodology and outcomes, and relationship with CrossFit. We also talk about some of their best advice for preventing and treating soft tissue injuries, whether you're a competitive athlete or whether you're training for health and longevity. We have a lot to cover in this episode, but before we get started, I have a few quick reminders. First, if you're enjoying the podcast, please head over to iTunes to subscribe and consider giving it a 5-star rating. Also, you can head to my website, juliefouché.com, where you can enter your email to stay in the loop with the podcast and everything else I'm doing with my bi-weekly newsletter. I'm also always looking for inspiring stories to share. So if you or someone you know has used lifestyle to overcome a serious health challenge, please send your story to me at info@juliefouché.com, and I'll select some to share on future episodes. If you're interested in training with me, check out my program through Beyond the Whiteboard. This is the actual training I do now 5 days per week, 1 hour per day, scheduled out for you minute by minute from warm up to cool down. For more info or to try out the program yourself, visit beyondthewhiteboard.com/juliefouché. So with that, let's get started here on Pursuing Health with episode number 24 with Doctors Jason Garrett and Ty Nickleberry of Airrosti Rehab Centers. Welcome back to Pursuing Health. I am here at Airrosti Rehab Centers in San Antonio at their headquarters with Ty and Jason, who are two of the first Airrosti doctors from my understanding. So I thought maybe we could start out and just talk about your background, your personal backgrounds, maybe athletic, and then how you got into what you do in the first place, even maybe before you started at Airrosti.
Sure.
All right, let's say we start with Ty since he was the first doctor at Airrosti.
All right. Well, athletic background, I was a basketball player in college.
Okay.
And played all 4 years. When I got to chiro school, I knew I wanted to do something in sports, and I had a lot of options, and I actually, thinking about chiro school or med school or different types of schools, I knew that chiro school offered me the best opportunity to kind of do it how I wanted, which I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do in the beginning. Got out, really wanted to get the focus of sports going. Had a little bit of a traction issue from the standpoint of making it happen the way I wanted it to. Got lucky, found Airrosti at the time when they started. The big thing that got me in the beginning was the vision and understanding that this is a good way to change injuries and make a huge impact very quickly. But the big elephant in the room was, could you do it? And it took me about a day to really see it happening, and I realized that we're on to something big, and so we just kind of put our head down and made it happen at that point.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And a somewhat similar story. I grew up playing pretty much every sport, and I was okay at soccer, so I played soccer in college, and then I played for a couple years professionally before I had a career-ending injury.
Okay at soccer, just a few professional years.
Well, relative. And then I got hurt, so I was going to go to physical therapy school. I had a biology degree, and I met a chiropractor, and he said, well, you can do all that same rehab, but you don't have to have a referral. So you can actually dictate care and manage the patient yourself. And so never been to a chiropractor in my life. Said, that sounds like a pretty good idea. Went to school, got through school, started doing stuff kind of similar to what Airrosti is, but not nearly as effective. I thought I was the best guy in town. I had a bit of an ego back then, which I was humbled quickly when I walked into this gym. And I walked in and said, hey, to the coaches, if you got any athletes that have this and that, I can fix them. And they said, well, we got this Airrosti guy in here. People come in on crutches. Their ankle looks like an eggplant. It's black and blue and swollen. An hour later, he has him running down the track. Can you do that? And I said, nope, I can't do that. And so it was really humbling, good in a good way. And it drove me crazy that somebody else could do this with their hands, and I couldn't. And so then I started researching the company, met with the owner, called him up. He said, yeah, we're hiring right now. You'd be a real good fit. Come meet with us. And I was like, I don't want to work for you guys. Just teach me what you do. Can I learn this? They're like, no, here's a contract. Talk to your wife. I was like, who are these people?
You want to do this.
Yeah. And so I made probably at the time with the information in front of me the dumbest career move of my life, because the company had 3 people. It was massively in debt. It was going the wrong direction. No payroll. There was no possible way this thing was going to be successful. In hindsight, it's the best decision I ever made in my life from a career standpoint. But if I had any experience business-wise, I would have walked away, run away as quickly as I could. But the treatment model really is what has made this thing as amazing as it is, and it's allowed us to now actually have a real company with 450 employees and an actual payroll and a building and HR and all the other things that companies have. And now we can make an impact on, I think we treated over 1 million patients. We hit a 1 million mark a little earlier last year. Since 2008, we've treated 350,000 cases, and so with an average of about 3.1 visits per injury, with the 89% resolution rate, which is pretty good, I think.
Yeah, some of that. I want to talk more about that data too, because I think that's another unique thing about all the data that you have been collecting for so long, and what that says about what you're able to do. But maybe just for people who aren't familiar, we could talk a little bit about that treatment model that you're talking about, because it is pretty unique, and it's something that I think one of the coolest things I think about Airrosti is that no matter where you go, you're going to get the same treatment everywhere. Everyone's been through the same training. So maybe you can talk a little bit about that and why you think it works so well or why it's so unique.
Yeah, it really starts with our clinical pathways, and that really starts with recruiting and vetting in the hiring process. So we eliminate about 90% of applicants just based on resume and interview process. People that don't have a passion for really doing this. If you just want a job and you want to make some money treating people, this is not the place for you. We need people that are really passionate about fixing injuries and making a big impact as quickly as possible. So once they get through that process, which takes about 4 to 6 months for the interview process, a lot of hurdles, a lot of things to jump through, bring them in here, we house them, put them up for 6 weeks, a minimum of 6 weeks, where we train them through our entire clinical pathways. And it's really just the 2 most evidence-based treatment modalities for soft tissue injuries. It's manual therapy, delivered by an expert in soft tissue, and active care immediately afterwards. Those two things make the biggest impact, which is why we can do what we do so well. It's not really that we do anything unique or special or different. We just have really good people driven to deliver an amazing impact. And then once they're hired here, we all keep each other accountable in a very disciplined environment, because the majority of the providers we hire are athletes or have a former competitive background in something, and nobody wants to be the one bringing the average down. And so it's like, oh, what are you at right now? You're at 2.7? Oh, man, I got to get better. I'm at 3.4. And so it's just that constant environment of discipline and really driving people to be great.
Right. Yeah, I think that's so powerful. And that's the same thing that we see all the time in CrossFit. When you're working out with someone else, you're probably going to do better, push a little bit harder, even though it's uncomfortable. And you feel like, oh, man, I wish I could just relax here for a little bit. But in the end, it makes you so much better. So
I think that's one of the reasons the relationship is so strong. I mean, we really do have like-minded philosophies in that way.
Yeah.
And you talked a little bit about how far you've grown since you both started here, but you also have really entered into CrossFit, I think, from an early point. So you've been involved in the athlete services for a few years now, and then just recently announced another big sort of aspect to your partnership. So maybe you could talk a little bit about the partnership with CrossFit and how that CrossFit plays a role in what you do.
Yeah, so I think we really started getting serious with CrossFit. One of our doctors, another one of our founder doctors, who's actually traveling right now, he used to be a little bit overweight, and suddenly he started getting in incredible shape, and we're like, what are you doing? His quads are getting huge. Just like, he's got a six-pack now.
You got to go to CrossFit.
He was one of those guys, and he'll hate hearing this, but it looked like a package of hot dogs on the back of his neck. And he went from like that 6 months later to having a six-pack. We're like, what are you doing? So then several other people started doing CrossFit in the company, and then we got involved in the sectionals back when they had sectionals.
Okay.
Literally throwing all of our stuff into like a CRV Honda, all the foam rollers, all the equipment, loading it up, driving it to where the regionals were. And then we did a pretty good job organizing that, then moved into the regionals where they were in Houston and San Antonio. And CrossFit didn't really know what we were doing. They were just hearing really good things from the athletes. And they realized that from the athlete service standpoint, because we're all volunteering, but we're all part of the same group. So we hold each other accountable. A lot of times volunteer groups, they drop the ball here and there because it's just there's no accountability except for getting a free pass for the weekend. We hold each other accountable because if someone screws up, that's going to look bad for us. And so everyone works really hard, and suddenly they see this structure where athletes are getting treated very efficiently. They didn't even know about the outcome. So then they asked us, I think it was 4 or 5 years ago, I think 5 years, it'll be 5 years this year, can you guys come out and run the games athlete services part? And it was me and Chris and Ty and a few other people. It was literally on a
skeleton
Saturday morning.
crew.
Yeah, they said, can you come out Wednesday? Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Yeah, sure. They called us on Friday. Can you fly out tomorrow? We're like, I guess so.
Okay.
So we go out there. We organize it. We do a good job. We were literally carrying water pallets and all. Like we were doing everything between treating as like the regular volunteers. But they saw the opportunity. Then some of them got treated, like Dave Castro and some of the other guys got treated. They're like, wow, this is pretty awesome.
This works,
and even Greg Glassman came in. And he goes, this is exactly what our athletes need. And, he's pretty passionate, and he's extraordinarily outside the box thinking. And he just realized this is something that's really impactful. So year over year, we've just gotten a stronger relationship, very organically grown. It wasn't like we sponsored anything and put a lot of money into it. It was just the more experience we got at running events, the more CrossFit was like, hey, can you guys just take all the athlete services so we don't have to worry about that? Can you do all of them worldwide when they were 18? I'm like, no, we're not quite that big yet. But we'll do 4, and then we'll do 5, and then next year we'll do 6. So we'll do all of the North American, all the U.S. ones, and then probably eventually worldwide. Hopefully worldwide. That'd be a pretty fun trip for some of us to go on. But that's what it was. It's just a really good experience for the athletes, making sure that nobody's dropping the ball, that CrossFit can literally hand over that part and not have to worry about it. That's what I think their biggest value early on. And then it was like, oh, wow, you guys really fix people fast, and this is great for the athletes.
And I know we've appreciated it as athletes, and having, especially myself, even last year I was able to work with practitioner in Ohio leading up to the competition season, and so that helped as well. And then at the games, you're always going to get reliable treatment, something you can count on. So we've appreciated it a lot.
Well, we can feel that appreciation too. I mean, I remember the first few years, it was like, who are you guys? What do you kind of do? And then it's now, if we go out to set up early, it's like guys, I mean, teams like just getting ready to come and see us as soon as, we're not even set up yet, and they're like, hey, can we get in now?
Right. And it's something that when you're looking for someone to work on your body and you're training for this big event, or whether you're just working out to stay in shape, you're really protective and you want to make sure that you are going to get something that's really helpful. And I think for a lot of people that's hard to find. And I know even myself, when I lived in Michigan, I had found a really great body worker, and then I had to move to Cleveland, and I tried so many people around the area, and no one was quite as good or quite what I wanted. And so it's hard to find, but I think the fact that Airrosti is now expanding even across the country, and if you go to someone with that name or in that company, you're going to get treatment that you can count on. It's really powerful.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so maybe we could talk a little bit more about the outcomes, because I think that's one of the other really interesting things. And I was looking at your website this week about some of the outcomes that you have been tracking for a while, from patients, and then the different conditions, and even going as far to look at different surgeries or other treatments that you've prevented and costs that you've been saving through your treatment. So maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so in 2008, we actually started tracking every single one of our patient outcomes. So getting a discharge survey on every single patient, which isn't easy, and especially in healthcare, a lot of times people drop off the schedule here and there. But because we're so quick in general, most patients really get excited about filling it out and being done with treatment and being done with care. That was really good, but it was still patient reported, so there was a lot of subjectivity to it, and people could look at it and go, well, from a HIPAA standpoint, we can't audit your records, so we don't know if those are actually real, because you guys control it all, right? That's fair. So a few years ago, we commissioned a study by a company called Compass, which is just pure data collection. All they do is analyze data, and they look at over a 2-year period. If somebody, based on their tax ID number, their social security number, goes and sees an Airrosti provider, goes and sees any other healthcare provider, period, how does that look over 2 years on their total healthcare spend? Whether, so if, for example, if you came to see Ty and he fixed your low back in 2 visits, and then 18 months later you went skydiving and you had a terrible accident, multiple disc herniations, had a surgery, because they take out any of the opinion on that stuff, you fall in that 2-year window, it's still a low back injury, that would count against him. But you get a big enough data set, and at the time I think we had around 300,000 or 400,000 cases between Airrosti and all others just in Texas alone. It showed that we are by far the most efficient and effective at treating these conditions across all other providers. So not only fixing them in 3 visits, but also over a 2-year period, we're by far the least expensive, and we prevent a lot of surgeries, injections, MRIs, the unnecessary ones. We're totally in favor of all the necessary interventional stuff when it's needed, but a lot of times it's not. And then last year, we commissioned another company, which is the gold standard, the highest level of data analytics you can possibly have, called Milliman. And they ran our data again, and it looks just as good, if not better. And they really put some filters on it to make it very challenging for anybody to ever come in and say, well, you guys are cherry picking, or those must be easy cases. Nope, it's apples to apples. It's pure, based on diagnosis code and body region, and we're still coming out way ahead. So it's pretty exciting.
That's incredible, especially now in healthcare. All we're hearing about, it seems like, is value-based care, cost savings, patient satisfaction, or some of the, I feel like, the keywords that I'm hearing.
Accountable care. Yeah,
accountable care. And so to have that data already there to show is really huge.
I think one of the good things about it for us is we were always capturing this information. I mean, from the very beginning. I mean, we test, treat, retest. We're trying to figure out exactly what's going on with the patient in regards to before they came in to see us, what's kind of happening after. It just, the sophistication came when the engagement started with these carriers and corporations, and really trying to figure out the information that they want. And it was really just more of us putting together what we were already doing. Yeah.
And I know you, especially here in Texas, but are really working with a lot of the other healthcare professionals in the community to educate them on what you do and what role you can play in healthcare, which to me is really interesting, as I'm eventually going to go into family medicine. And so a lot of the patients that you see come in with little aches or pains, things that you don't necessarily need to go to surgery to, but in a traditional family care practice, you often don't have a lot to offer people other than controlling their pain with medicine. So how have you tried to work with some of the other community doctors or even the surgeons in the area?
That's been a long process, because it takes a lot of patient outcomes and people going to tell those doctors over and over and over before they finally start to look at it. Because everyone has anecdotal things. Oh, I went to my X, Y, and Z provider and they fixed my this. Okay, that's great. But when they start hearing it over and over and over, it becomes a little bit hard to avoid. We partnered with family practice providers probably 6 or 8 years ago, and now we're in, I think, around 150, 160 of those locations. in the past year, we've really worked hard with orthopedic surgeons and spine surgeons, so with
Okay.
the neuro, the ortho, and we have what's called our Spine Ortho Collaborative. So now because we work with really large employers and hospital systems, and they want to control their costs, what they do is they put us in a position to be the filter, kind of the gatekeeper, to prevent things that may need surgery or may not, and we're actually the ones vetting those. And so we've partnered with orthopedic and spine surgical groups around Texas and starting in Ohio and Virginia pretty soon as well, where they want us seeing their patients first, because most surgeons in general don't want to see a patient that doesn't need surgery.
Right.
It's a waste of their time. It's not the best use of their skill set. If someone comes to see us and we can't impact them, we think they need surgery, now suddenly, instead of seeing 25 patients a day where 2 need surgery, they're seeing 10 or 15 that need surgery a day directly from us. They're actually getting more surgeries, and we're preventing surgeries. So it sounds counterintuitive. It sounds kind of impossible. But when employers can filter all of their patients that have symptoms that are musculoskeletal in nature to one provider that's really efficient and effective, they know that those that need surgery will get expedited for that. So surgeons love that, because initially they were like, whoa, you're going to prevent
Take
surgeries.
all of our patients.
We don't want that. But no, actually we're going to increase your surgeries, and it's going to be people you want to do surgery on that's going to have a great outcome.
A better outcome. That's very
It's been a
true.
long process, and we're still working with it, but we've partnered with hospital systems, carriers, employers, and now these spine ortho groups.
Wow. So as a patient, or as someone who maybe they're working out and they start to have a little ache or pain, how do they enter into the system?
Well, we don't need a referral, so it's
Okay.
direct access. We are with all the major carriers, so Cigna, Humana, UHC, Aetna, Blue Cross Blue Shield, etc. If it's a pain or dysfunction that's limiting something they want to do in their life, if it's keeping them from doing workouts, if it's keeping them from sleeping, if it's affecting the way their relationships with their children, they can't get down in the ground and kneel, that's the ideal candidate for us. And so if it's not in those things, if it's something you just kind of rest for a couple of days and feel okay, it's probably not the best idea to come see us. But if it's really affecting any part of your life from a quality of life standpoint, we're the ideal place for you.
Okay. And so they could ideally come straight to an Airrosti provider, get an evaluation, and I know you spend a significant amount of time with patients, and then from there, if they don't see improvement, then they would be referred on to maybe an orthopedic surgeon or
family
a
practice.
specialist, or family practice, or a sports medicine doctor.
Yeah, because there's a lot of things that come in that they look like musculoskeletal, but in reality, it's coming from organic. You can have right shoulder blade pain, and it's coming from your gallbladder, etc. There's a lot of different things that mimic those kind of pains. You can have a frozen shoulder for someone who's pre-diabetic, which we can't fix that, so we send it right to the
And I think one of the things that's really good for our providers and for our patients is that our treatment is diagnostic in nature. And so we're going to find out very efficiently and very quickly if we're the right option for them, because it's a sad, lonely feeling when you're working on someone. You really kind of have to feel like, well, after about 10 visits, maybe I'll know what's going on. But, visit or two with us, if you're not getting improvement, we probably know something else is going on. At least we have a pretty strong suspicion of that. And it looks really good in the medical community in the fact that we're making these referrals efficiently, solid notes to go along with it, what our suspicions may be. And so it helps to develop relationships outside of that.
Great. And it works both ways too. So if someone comes into their family practice and they say, okay, this doesn't seem like it's any organic cause, it seems musculoskeletal, they can then refer over to you guys.
Yeah,
exactly.
And I'm sure you know this in your field, but general practice guys, they want peace of mind. They want to know when they make a referral that it's going to be nice and efficient.
Right.
And so being on both sides of where we're referring out and them also referring to us, I think they're seeing the quality that they're looking for.
Fantastic. Awesome. All right. Well, I think I want to end with 3 questions I ask everyone on the podcast. So I don't know if you've heard them before, but the first one is 3 things that you do on a daily basis that you think have the biggest overall positive impact on your health. So have to be things that you do in real life that you're consistent with, but you think those are sort of the big things that have the biggest impact.
Definitely working out.
Okay.
Work out several days a week, so that makes a big impact.
And do you both do CrossFit, or what do you do to work out?
Yeah, I'm more of a garage CrossFit guy.
Awesome.
And then I bounce around quite a bit, so I'll go to different boxes around town. So I'm probably not the most loyal.
Yeah, Jeff and I do something. You don't know if you met Jeff Littman. We do something called Twat Fit. We do a couple of workouts a day.
Actually,
not really.
Ty blew his Achilles out a couple years ago, so he's been limited. He hasn't responded quite as quickly as you have.
Yeah, that's pretty
Most
amazing.
people aren't climbing the leaderboard 9 months after, 10 months, whatever it is after surgery.
I feel very good,
amazing.
but comparatively, that's really good.
There hasn't been any running in the open yet, so
Yeah.
we'll see.
So that, if I ever do have an ache or pain, I get it treated right away because the earlier you get on it, the better it is. And then fish oil and coconut oil are kind of my big other things.
I like it.
I mean, it's funny you said I concur with that part too. I mean, if you got something going on, you got to get it taken care of now. And as providers, we're the worst at that. You know, like we don't technically practice what we preach as far as, you know, we tell a patient, hey, if you get the X, Y, or Z, make sure you come back in. And so we're just, you know, creatures of habit in that way. But when you can, it's always like, why did I wait so long? And, you know, diet, you know, the right supplements. I mean, I think the fish oils are tremendously good. But just, you know, moderation and keeping a good base of everything you're doing. Just don't go overboard. That's really the keys for me.
Absolutely. Along that same note, what do you think would be your best recommendations for maybe your average CrossFitter or someone who's working out to stay healthy as far as listening to their body or what they can do to prevent injuries in the first place or to nip them into the bud really early?
I think having a really good coach that can identify any movement dysfunction you have and then modifying your workouts, because very few people are like you and Christy and others that move really, really well and can move really well with high weights and high intensity. Most people have to take years and years to develop that range of motion because they've, for whatever reason, you know, life, school, driving, everything else in between, you've lost your shoulder range of motion, you've lost your hip range of motion, your ankle range of motion. And when that happens and you put a load on it in a dysfunctional movement, it's going to cause some irritation, tendonitis, and you know some other things may happen. So that's why it's so important, I think, to be in a box with coaches that can really identify all those things and modify for you until you're ready for it. And also for the newer CrossFitter, especially if you have an athletic background, you know, I found this out the hard way. I thought I was in pretty good shape, and then the first time I did CrossFit, I don't think I could move for a week because I was trying to keep up with these two women in the class that were just destroying me. And it was all body weight stuff, so there's no reason why I shouldn't have been able to keep up. They've been doing CrossFit for a long time. They were very, very good. I wasn't anywhere near keeping up with them, but I was trying, and it wrecked me for about a week. And I thought, okay, I got to start a little slower, swallow my ego again.
Exactly. That's CrossFit will definitely make you check your ego. That's for sure.
Yeah, that'd be my biggest advice.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, I concur with that. I think the biggest thing is just making sure that you're paying attention to your movement, and you know, like we have saying around here, it's like even the best golfers in the world need a coach. You know, they need to make sure that people or at least they're aware of exactly what's going on. You know, you have pitchers that you know, they got a really nice overhead delivery. You know, mid-season maybe it's coming down a little bit. Now they're starting to challenge their shoulder a little bit, and it's imperceptible to those guys. And so having some folks, you know, really paying attention to it, you know, and proper rest too. I think that's one of the big ones that folks continue to push because we all are competitive, and so we want to, like, you know, if two's good, five's better mentality, and understanding that, you know, taking one step forward could potentially mean a step back if you're putting a little too much on top of it, and just paying attention and being smart about it.
Absolutely. That's one thing I've noticed this year since backing off from competition, that it's okay. I take a lot more rest than I ever was before, and sometimes you're better for it. And especially now trying to more play that long game instead of trying to be at my peak every year in July, but I want to be as functional as I can later in life. So you see that there's a lot of things you do when you're training for a competition that you are not necessarily the healthiest in the long run. And most of us are not necessarily training for competition. So it's hard when you see the games or you see the open and you want to be super competitive. Sometimes it's hard to take that step back and think about, you know, what's going to be best for me in the long run.
Every year after the games, I come back and I'm like, I'm
feel
in
like
terrible
crap.
shape.
Yeah, you feel like crap. You're like, oh man,
this is not real.
Let's go work out together.
It's the fans.
Oh yeah,
the fans in the stadium. They all have their shirts off. You're like, wow, those people are shredded. And
the fittest fans on earth. That's for sure.
There you go.
Yep, it is definitely.
Yeah. Is there one thing that you think would have a big impact on your health, but you have a hard time implementing?
Sleep.
I
don't sleep anywhere near as much as I should. I get up early to work out. I've got small children, and so I want to be home at night and for dinner and everything else. So I usually get up about 4:20, but I don't go to bed very early either. And I probably have a few too many glasses of wine and beer and whiskey, which doesn't help with the sleep. So I think if I could eliminate that and actually sleep better, I'd feel way better most of the time.
Yeah, and I'd say sleep, you know, and diet. It's like I don't eat terribly, but I know, you know, knowing what I know, I should say, there are things that I could release, but you know, those are probably the biggest two. But you know, whenever you do eat much cleaner. You feel so much better. It's like, why don't I do this all the time?
Right.
It's
right.
hard.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a slippery slope. That's for sure.
And around here we have quite a few lunch meetings, or lunch interviews that we take folks out to eat. So
yeah, social gatherings are always difficult sometimes to make those good decisions. Okay, and then last question is, what does a healthy life look like to you?
Balance.
Moderation.
I mean, honestly,
balance.
for me, it's really balance. It's just taking it all in. I mean, we have people here, or just any population that you look at. I mean, we tend to go so far down one aspect of the roads that we can take, and if we just come back and balance it out a little bit, I think that's really kind of to me, that's what it looks like. Because bottom line, it does boil down to quality in what is quality for you. For me, and just kind of like what you just said a second ago, it's that long term. You're looking at, okay, well, what do I want to be at 45? How do I want to feel at 50? What do I want to be able to do? And so I think that balance is where you're going to find it.
Yeah, I agree completely. When one thing in your life gets out of balance, it affects everything else. So
Absolutely.
If you can keep it balanced, that's awesome.
Right. It's a constant juggling act,
It's totally a juggling.
It's always a little bit out of balance, but you're striving for that perfect balance.
Yeah.
Very cool. One more question I want to throw in there. We talked a little bit about the relationship with CrossFit, but you also this year announced that you'll be treating any owners or trainers at CrossFit affiliates for free, which is a huge offering.
It's exciting.
Has that program started yet, and how is it going so far? Can you give us any updates on how that works?
Yeah, it's actually started. I think we've already signed up over 300 boxes.
Wow.
Plus all their coaches as well.
Okay.
The only problem is we had to hire 2 more people just to purely manage that relationship.
Wow.
And we're looking at hiring a couple more people just to manage the relationship and getting them scheduled.
Mm-hmm.
It's worked out really well. The CrossFit boxes are really excited. Everyone we've talked to is just thinking this is the greatest thing ever. We got people coming from other states that we're not even in that are excited about it. Plus,
awesome.
at some of the regionals and at the games, we're going to offer treatment for those that are signed up in the affiliate program as well.
Oh, great.
So not only treating athletes at the games this year, but we're going to be off on the vendor area.
Oh, cool.
Treating the CrossFit coaches.
That's a great
and box
idea.
owners.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And then that, I guess, as well as we're thinking about this big healthcare system, the CrossFit trainers are almost another referral base to say if an athlete comes to them saying, oh, my shoulder hurts or this hurts, then they can send them your way too.
I think anyone in the body performance industry behooves themselves to at least know about us because, you're working with injured folks aren't coming. And so, it's a natural fit for us.
Right. And we all have now I forget what the quote is that you have on your wall when you walk in. I just took a picture of it, but it's basically, it says something about
positive impact on the lives
having
of patients.
the positive impact on the patients. So at the end of the day, that's what we're all trying to do, no matter whether you're, working for Airrosti, whether you're a physician, whether you're a CrossFit trainer. We're all trying to positively impact the lives of our clients or our patients.
And those like-minded people in the world find each other. And I think that's one of the reasons why this relationship is as strong as it is. And, I think not only did we just have many folks that just love CrossFit in general, I think we respect the process. I think we understand the differences, the challenges, and like when we're out at the games or, the regional events, we know what the task is at hand. And so trying to make sure that we're trying to positively impact what we're doing right then and there, it's something that we get it. And so I think that's why, we're doing as well together as we are.
Absolutely. Well, thank you both for sitting down with me. I was excited to hear more about what you're all doing, and I hope it continues to spread. And I think that it fills, definitely as myself, someone who's in medical school and hopefully going to be in a family practice, I think it fills a big hole that we've had for a long time in our healthcare system. And so hope that we see more of it.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
And
Thanks,
good
guys.
luck next year in your finals and everything.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much for tuning into this episode. I hope you enjoyed hearing from Dr. Garrett and Dr. Nickleberry as much as I did. To make sure you never miss an episode and to receive exclusive content from me, head over to my website, juliefouché.com, and subscribe to my email list. Also, don't forget to share your stories. If you or someone you know has used lifestyle to overcome a serious health challenge, please email me at info@juliefouché.com. I'll choose some of these inspiring stories to share here on the podcast in future episodes. Also, if you like what you hear, don't forget to subscribe and consider giving the podcast a 5-star rating on iTunes. I always love hearing your feedback, so please leave comments under this post on my website and share your thoughts on social media with hashtag JFHealth. Thank you again so much for listening, and I'll catch you next time on Pursuing Health.